When we picture the United States, we usually think of a flat map with neat, solid borders. But if we look at the actual physical geography, that simple shape fractures into a chaotic expanse of towering mountain ranges and deep, excavated valleys. Compared against other major nations, the U.S. is the world's third largest country, covering a sprawling 3.7 million square miles. Across that footprint, you'll find almost every climate type known to Earth, stretching from the freezing subarctic to the deep tropics. This extreme variety makes the U.S. what biologists call a mega-diverse nation. It's a rare classification, reserved for a highly exclusive group of only 17 countries on the planet that hold exceptional levels of biodiversity. To understand the geopolitical power and the cultural identity of the United States, we have to start by looking at the varied, often hostile terrain it sits upon. Starting on the East Coast, the flat Atlantic coastal plain gradually gives way to inland forests. Pushing further west, the terrain swells into the ancient, heavily weathered hills of the Appalachian Mountains. Cross those mountains, and the landscape opens up into the Midwest, a region entirely dominated by the Mississippi River system, the fourth longest river system in the world. This water network feeds directly into the Great Plains, a massive semi-arid flatland. The soil here is so fertile that it currently holds roughly 10% of the entire Earth's cropland. But this open geography comes with a severe climatic side effect. Without natural mountain barriers, opposing weather systems violently collide across the plains, creating a concentrated zone of destructive funnel clouds known as Tornado Alley. Despite the extreme weather, this vast middle functions as the agricultural engine for the entire country, reliably producing enough food to supply both the nation and the global market. That flat, fertile expanse eventually crashes directly into a massive geological wall, the jagged 14,000-foot peaks of the Rocky Mountains. Hidden beneath those mountains in Yellowstone sits the continent's largest volcanic feature, an active caldera constantly venting steam and boiling water to the surface. Further south, the Colorado River has spent millions of years excavating the Grand Canyon, carving a steep, overwhelming gorge through intricate layers of solid rock. Pushing even further west reveals a completely different kind of extreme environment. The rocky Great Basin drops into the harsh, dry conditions of the Mojave and Sonoran deserts. The navigable plains of the east are replaced by these imposing geological fortresses in the west, creating a severe obstacle course that dictated exactly where early settlers could build and survive. The final western transition requires climbing over the towering Sierra Nevada mountain range before dropping down into the temperate Mediterranean climate of coastal California. But the U.S. landmass extends far beyond the contiguous states. Up in the freezing, extreme subarctic environment of Alaska sits Denali, the absolute highest peak on the North American continent. Contrast that freezing terrain with Hawaii, a tropical volcanic archipelago isolated deep in the Pacific Ocean. These extreme ends of the climate spectrum support over 17,000 different plant species and hundreds of endemic animals that exist nowhere else in the world. Protecting these irreplaceable, highly vulnerable biomes required massive conservation efforts. Today, 63 federally protected national parks guard the nation's most extreme ecological zones. From the beginning, this topography dictated human movement. The extensive river networks and fertile plains guided early Native American civilizations and later directed the paths of European colonization. To push settlement across the harsh western frontier, the government relied on policy over geography, primarily through the Homestead Act. This legislation transferred massive tracts of the public domain to private citizens, giving away nearly 10% of the total U.S. land area. Today, living in these diverse geographical zones continues to expose populations to natural threats. The Gulf Coast routinely faces the destructive power of massive hurricanes sweeping in from the ocean. Meanwhile, the population centers built in the American Southwest are facing increasingly persistent droughts and intensifying heat waves. The core ideas of the American identity, the mythology of the frontier, the promise of natural abundance, and the challenge of untamed wilderness are a direct, unavoidable product of the wild, sprawling continent the nation occupies.